A Werewolf Shifter Romance. Written by Amelia Hart. Chapter 1. Hidden Poison. Maya Sterling pressed her back against the cool stone wall of the servants' corridor, clutching the wedding dress alterations to her chest as voices drifted from her twin sister's chambers. The silk fabric felt foreign beneath her calloused fingers, hands that had grown rough from years of scrubbing floors and tending to others while Sophia basked in their mother's favor. Everything must be perfect for the ceremony in 3 days. Luna Victoria's voice carried through the partially open door. The alliance between our pack and Alpha Cain's territory will secure our bloodline for generations. Maya's heart clenched at the pride in her mother's tone, a warmth that had never been directed toward her. At 22, she had learned to accept her role as the defective twin, the one who couldn't shift, the embarrassment to the Sterling legacy. But acceptance didn't dull the ache of isolation that followed her through the pack house like a shadow. She raised her hand to knock, then froze as another voice joined the conversation. Masculine. Rough. Unfamiliar. The timing couldn't be better, love. The stranger's voice held a dangerous edge. Once Torres is eliminated during the ceremony, you'll be free to rule beside me. No more pretending to play the perfect Luna. Maya's blood turned to ice. Eliminated? Her breath caught as Sophia's laughter floated through the air. Not the musical sound she performed for others, but something cold and calculating. Marcus, you worry too much, Sophia purred. The wolf's bane I've been slipping into Maya's food for years has kept her weak and powerless. She poses no threat to our plans. After tomorrow night, both she and that pompous alpha will be nothing more than memories. The wedding dress slipped from Maya's numb fingers, silk pooling silently at her feet. Wolf's bane. The revelation hit her like a physical blow, pieces of a lifetime puzzle suddenly clicking into place. The constant fatigue, the inability to shift when every other Sterling had manifested by 16, the strange dreams of silver wolves that felt more like memories than fantasies. And the pregnancy? Marcus asked, his voice dropping to a whisper. Maya strained to hear, pressing closer to the door. 6 weeks along with your child. Sophia's voice carried satisfaction. Torres will never suspect. By the time he realizes the timeline doesn't match our mating ceremony, it'll be too late. The pack will have a new alpha, and our bloodline will finally claim its rightful place. The words struck Maya like lightning. Sophia was carrying another man's child while preparing to mate with Alpha Cain Torres in 3 days. The arranged marriage that was supposed to unite their territories was built on lies and betrayal. Maya's enhanced senses, something she'd always attributed to nervous anxiety, suddenly sharpened with crystal clarity. She could smell the deception wafting from the room, taste the metallic tang of impending violence in the air. These weren't normal human abilities, she realized with growing horror. They were wolf instincts, suppressed for years, but finally beginning to surface. Maya poses no threat, Sophia continued dismissively. Mother believes every word I've told her about my sister's mental instability and jealousy. The entire pack sees her as nothing more than a pathetic servant. Even if she suspected something, who would believe her? The cruelty in her twin's voice cut deeper than any blade. Maya had spent years wondering what was wrong with her, why she couldn't be the daughter their mother wanted, why she felt like a ghost in her own home. Now she understood. It had all been orchestrated. Every moment of self-doubt, every feeling of inadequacy, had been carefully crafted through years of systematic poisoning and manipulation. She thought of the elderly pack members who had died recently, wolves who had served the Sterling family faithfully for decades, suddenly falling ill with mysterious symptoms. Had Sophia been responsible for their deaths too? The possibility made Maya's stomach churn with rage and grief. Heavy footsteps approached the door, and Maya quickly gathered the wedding dress, her hands shaking as she pressed herself deeper into the shadows. She couldn't let them discover her eavesdropping, not when she was the only one who knew the truth about Sophia's deadly plans. Marcus emerged from the chamber, his scarred face marking him as a rogue, the kind of wolf who lived outside pack law, dangerous and unpredictable. His eyes swept the corridor with predatory awareness, and Maya held her breath until his footsteps faded down the hall. When silence returned, she slipped away to her small room in the servants' quarters, her mind racing with the implications of what she'd overheard. Alpha Cain Torres was walking into a trap. The powerful leader who commanded respect from packs across the territory would die during his own mating ceremony, never knowing that his arranged bride had planned his murder from the beginning. Maya sank onto her narrow bed, staring at her reflection in the cracked mirror across the room. She looked exactly like Sophia. Same blonde hair, same blue eyes, same delicate features, yet they couldn't be more different. While Sophia had spent their childhood learning politics and pack hierarchy, Maya had been relegated to kitchen duties and cleaning. While Sophia had celebrated her first shift at 16, Maya had been told she was incomplete, broken, a disappointment to their bloodline. But now she knew the truth. The wolfsbane explained everything: her inability to shift, her constant exhaustion, the way she felt disconnected from her wolf nature. Sophia had been slowly poisoning her since childhood, ensuring that Maya would never pose a threat to her position as the favored daughter. The silver wolves in her dreams suddenly made sense too. They weren't fantasies. They were her wolf trying to break through the chemical suppression, calling to her from beneath layers of artificial weakness. How many years had her true nature been trapped, fighting to emerge? A soft knock at her door made Maya jump. "Come in," she called, quickly hiding the wedding dress behind her pillow. Luna Victoria entered, her expression distant and cold as always when addressing her younger daughter. "The alterations should have been completed hours ago, Maya. Sophia's ceremony cannot be delayed." Maya forced herself to meet her mother's eyes, seeing the disappointment that had become so familiar over the years. Victoria had no idea she'd been manipulated, that her favoritism towards Sophia had been carefully cultivated through lies and deception. "I'll have them finished tonight, Mother," Maya replied quietly, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. Victoria's gaze swept over the small, sparse room with obvious distaste. "Perhaps after the ceremony, we should discuss finding you a position with another pack. It's clear you'll never fulfill your potential here." The dismissal stung, but Maya nodded obediently. After tomorrow, nothing would be the same anyway. Either Alpha Cain would die in Sophia's trap, or Maya would find a way to warn him. Either way, her life at the Sterling Pack House was coming to an end. As her mother departed, Maya made her decision. She couldn't let innocent people die for Sophia's ambition. Alpha Cain deserved to know the truth about his arranged mate, even if it meant risking everything. The next morning, she would find him and reveal Sophia's deadly conspiracy. For the first time in her life, Maya Sterling would choose courage over obedience, truth over safety. The wolfsbane was finally leaving her system, and with each passing hour, she felt stronger, more aware, more like the wolf she was meant to be. Her twin sister had underestimated her for the last time. Chapter 2. Moonlight Confrontation. The moonlight cast silver shadows across the pack's border as Maya made her way through the dense forest, her heart hammering against her ribs with each step. 2 days until Sophia's wedding ceremony. 2 days to find Alpha Cain Torres and somehow convince him that his arranged mate was planning his murder. Her blonde hair caught the pale light as she moved between the towering pines, blue eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of the patrol she knew would be running these woods. The wolfsbane was gradually leaving her system after years of systematic poisoning, and with each passing hour, her senses grew sharper. She could smell the territorial markers that designated pack boundaries, hear the distant howl of wolves miles away, feel the electric energy that thrummed through the earth beneath her feet. For the first time in her life, Maya felt truly alive. A branch snapped somewhere to her left, and she froze, pressing herself against the rough bark of an ancient oak. The scent hit her first, wild, masculine, dangerous. Pure alpha dominance rolled through the forest like a physical force, making every instinct in her body scream to submit, to run, to hide. Instead, she stepped into the moonlit clearing. The massive black wolf emerged from the shadows, easily twice the size of any normal shifter she'd ever seen. His amber eyes glowed with predatory intelligence as he circled her slowly, muscles rippling beneath his dark fur. This was no ordinary pack member. This was Alpha Cain Torres himself, and he was magnificent. Maya's breath caught in her throat, but she forced herself to stand straighter, to meet those burning golden eyes without flinching. "I need to speak with you, Alpha Torres. It's about Sophia." The wolf's lips pulled back in a snarl, revealing teeth that could tear her throat out without effort. He took a step closer, his massive head lowering as he tested her scent, searching for deception or threat. "I know you don't know me," Maya continued, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm Maya Sterling, Sophia's twin sister. And I know you have no reason to trust me, but what I'm about to tell you could save your life." The alpha's ears flattened against his skull, and a low growl rumbled from his chest. Maya could feel the raw power radiating from him, the barely contained violence that lurked beneath his wolf form. Most people would have been on their knees by now, overcome by the sheer force of his dominance. But something inside Maya, something that had been suppressed for too long, refused to bow. "Sophia is pregnant," she said quickly, before he could attack or shift away. 6 weeks along, with another man's child. A rogue named Marcus. "They're planning to kill you during the mating ceremony and claim your territory." The growling stopped abruptly. The wolf's amber eyes narrowed, studying her with new intensity. Maya could practically see the wheels turning in his mind, weighing her words against everything he thought he knew about his arranged mate. Slowly, deliberately, the alpha began to shift. Maya had seen transformations before, but nothing had prepared her for this. Power rolled off him in waves as bones cracked and reformed, as sleek black fur receded to reveal bronze skin stretched taut over corded muscle. When the change completed, Cain Torres stood before her in all his terrifying glory, 6.5 feet of pure predator, his amber eyes still glowing with otherworldly light. He was completely naked, utterly unashamed, and absolutely magnificent. "You're lying." His voice was a low rumble, rough from the transformation. "Sophia Sterling is a respected daughter of an alpha bloodline. She would never betray you?" Maya interrupted, surprised by her own boldness. "The same way she's been poisoning me with wolfsbane for years to keep me weak? The same way she's been manipulating our mother into believing I'm mentally unstable? My sister is very good at wearing masks, Alpha Torres." Cain took a step closer, and Maya caught his scent. Pine, leather, and something uniquely masculine that made her wolf stir restlessly beneath her skin. She'd never felt anything like it before, this pull that seemed to draw her toward him, despite every rational thought screaming at her to run. "Even if what you're saying is true," he said slowly, his eyes never leaving her face, "why would you tell me? Sophia is your family. Your blood." Maya's laugh held no humor. "Blood doesn't mean much when it's being used to poison you." She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze directly. "I've watched you from a distance, Alpha Torres. I've seen how you protect your pack, how you care for those under your authority. You don't deserve to die because my sister is too greedy and cruel to see beyond her own ambitions." Something flickered in those amber depths. Surprise, perhaps, or recognition. Cain moved closer still, close enough that Maya could feel the heat radiating from his skin, could see the faint scars that marked his chest and shoulders from battles fought and won. "Prove it," he commanded softly. "If Sophia is truly carrying another man's child, if she's planning my death, then prove it to me." Maya's pulse quickened. "I can try to gather evidence, but what?" His voice dropped to a whisper, and Maya felt something electric pass between them as he reached out to grasp her wrist. The moment his fingers touched her skin, a shock of pure energy raced up her arm, making her gasp. Cain jerked his hand back as if he'd been burned, his eyes widening with confusion, and something that looked almost like hunger. Maya stumbled backward, her own blue eyes reflecting the same bewilderment. What was that? 2 days? Cain said roughly, his breathing slightly uneven. "You have until the ceremony to bring me proof of these accusations. If you're lying to me, if this is some elaborate scheme to undermine the alliance between our packs, I will make you regret it." The threat in his voice was real, but Maya found herself nodding anyway. "And if I'm telling the truth?" Cain's amber eyes burned into hers, and for a moment, she thought she saw something vulnerable flash across his features. Then, his alpha mask slammed back into place, cold and impenetrable. "Then, Sophia Sterling will discover exactly what happens to those who betray an alpha." He began to shift again, his human form blurring as the wolf took control. But just before the transformation completed, Maya heard him speak one last time, his voice barely audible above the sound of cracking bones. "Be careful, Maya Sterling. Your sister is more dangerous than you know." The massive black wolf melted back into the shadows, leaving Maya alone in the moonlit clearing with her heart racing and her skin still tingling from his touch. She pressed her fingers to her wrist where he'd grabbed her, unable to understand the connection she'd felt in that brief moment of contact. Whatever it was, it had affected him too. She'd seen the confusion in his eyes, the way he'd pulled back as if her touch had shocked him. Maya made her way back through the forest, her mind spinning with everything that had just happened. She had 2 days to find proof of Sophia's betrayal. 2 days to save a man she barely knew but somehow felt inexplicably drawn to. As she slipped back into the pack house through the servants' entrance, Maya caught sight of herself in a hall mirror. Her blonde hair was tousled from her trek through the woods, her blue eyes bright with purpose and determination she'd never felt before. The wolfsbane was leaving her system, and with it, the artificial weakness that had defined her entire life. For the first time ever, Maya Sterling felt like she might actually be strong enough to fight back. She just hoped it would be enough to save them all. Upstairs, she could hear Sophia's musical laughter drifting from the main parlor, no doubt charming some visiting pack dignitaries with her perfect Luna facade. The sound made Maya's stomach turn with disgust and rage. Tomorrow, she would begin gathering the evidence that would expose her twin sister's true nature. Tonight, she would plan how to save the life of an alpha who had looked at her like she mattered, like she was more than just a broken disappointment. The game had begun, and Maya refused to lose. Chapter 3. Shattered Trust. Maya's hands trembled as she carefully placed the last stolen treasury item into her dresser drawer, her blue eyes wide with disbelief. She'd been set up. After spending an entire day searching for evidence of Sophia's conspiracy with Marcus, she'd returned to her room to find pack artifacts hidden among her meager belongings: ancient silver coins, ceremonial daggers, family heirlooms that had been missing for weeks. "No, no, no," she whispered, her blonde hair falling across her face as she frantically tried to think of an explanation. Someone had planted these items while she was out gathering proof of Sophia's pregnancy. The timing was too perfect, too convenient. Heavy footsteps thundered down the servants' corridor, and Maya's enhanced senses, growing stronger by the hour as the wolfsbane left her system, picked up the scent of multiple pack warriors approaching her door. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she realized the trap had already been sprung. "Maya Sterling!" Beta Nathan's voice boomed through the thin wood. "Open this door immediately by order of Luna Victoria." Maya backed against the far wall, her mind racing. She could smell her mother's distinctive lavender perfume mixed with Sophia's rose oil, could hear the shuffle of at least 6 warriors positioned outside her room. There was no escape, no way to explain away the evidence that had been carefully planted to destroy her credibility. The door burst open without waiting for her response. Luna Victoria swept into the small room, her face a mask of cold disappointment, while Sophia followed behind with perfectly performed shock and dismay written across her delicate features. Beta Nathan and his warriors flanked them, hands resting on their weapons. "Search everything," Victoria commanded, her voice sharp with authority. "I want this room torn apart." Maya watched in growing horror as the warriors systematically destroyed her few possessions, pulling out the planted treasures one by one. Each discovered artifact drew gasps from the assembled pack members who had gathered in the hallway to witness her downfall. "Maya," Victoria's voice was ice cold as she held up an ornate silver chalice that had belonged to their great-grandmother. "Explain to me how these priceless family heirlooms came to be hidden in your room." "Mother, I didn't," Maya began. But Sophia's perfectly timed sob cut her off. "I can't believe it," Sophia whispered, her blue eyes filling with crocodile tears. "My own sister stealing from our family. Maya, how could you do this to us?" "To me? Just because you're jealous of my upcoming ceremony doesn't mean—" "I'm not jealous," Maya snapped, her newfound strength flaring to life. "And I didn't steal anything. Someone planted those items while I was out. Sophia, you know I would never—" "Enough!" Victoria's alpha authority crashed over the room like a tidal wave. "I've heard your excuses for years, Maya. Your jealousy, your resentment, your constant attempts to undermine your sister's happiness. But theft? Stealing from your own bloodline? Maya felt the world tilting beneath her feet. Mother, please, you have to listen to me. Sophia isn't who you think she is. She's been what? Sophia stepped forward, her performance flawless. Been loving and patient with a sister who's clearly unstable. Been trying to help you find your place in this pack despite your limitations. Maya, I've defended you countless times, but this... She gestured helplessly at the scattered treasures. Beta Nathan cleared his throat respectfully. Luna Victoria, with the mating ceremony tomorrow night, perhaps it would be best to handle this matter quickly and quietly. We can't have any scandals disrupting the alliance with Alpha Torres. Victoria nodded grimly. Maya Sterling, by my authority as Luna of this pack, I hereby banish you from Sterling territory. You have 1 hour to gather your belongings and leave. You are forbidden from returning, and any pack member who aids you will face the same punishment. The words hit Maya like physical blows. Banished, cast out from the only home she'd ever known, labeled a thief and a disgrace. She looked around the room at faces she'd known her entire life, pack members who had watched her grow up, who had seen her work tirelessly to earn even a scrap of acceptance. Not one of them met her eyes. Mother, Maya whispered, her voice breaking. I'm your daughter. No, Victoria replied with finality. A daughter honors her family. A daughter doesn't steal and lie and try to destroy her sister's future out of petty jealousy. You are no child of mine. Maya's legs nearly gave out at the rejection, but she forced herself to remain standing. Through the crushing weight of betrayal and heartbreak, one thought burned bright and clear. Alpha Cain was still in danger. Tomorrow night, Sophia and Marcus would strike during the ceremony, and no one would believe her warnings now. Fine, Maya said quietly, surprising everyone with her calm tone. I'll leave. But when Alpha Torres dies tomorrow night, remember that I tried to warn you. Sophia's mask slipped for just a fraction of a second, a flash of triumph and malice crossing her features before she schooled her expression back to wounded innocence. Maya, please don't make wild accusations just because you're upset. Save it. Maya cut her off, her blue eyes blazing with newfound steel. We both know the truth. She pushed past the assembled pack members, her head held high despite the whispers and accusations that followed her down the corridor. In her room, she quickly gathered her few personal belongings. Clothes, a photo of her father who had died when she was young, and the small journal where she'd recorded her strange dreams of silver wolves. As she prepared to leave the only life she'd ever known, Maya caught sight of herself in the cracked mirror. Her blonde hair was disheveled, her blue eyes red-rimmed from unshed tears. But there was something new in her reflection, a strength that hadn't been there before. The wolfsbane was almost completely out of her system now, and she could feel her true nature stirring beneath her skin like a sleeping giant beginning to wake. Maya made her way to the pack borders as the sun began to set, her small bag slung over her shoulder. She had nowhere to go. No resources, no allies, but she couldn't leave the territory completely. Not when innocent people would die if she did nothing. The abandoned cabin on the eastern border came into view just as darkness fell completely. Maya had discovered it years ago during one of her solitary walks, a forgotten relic from when the pack territory had been larger. It would provide basic shelter while she figured out her next move. She was halfway to the cabin when a familiar scent reached her enhanced senses. Pine, leather, and that uniquely masculine aroma that made her wolf stir restlessly. Alpha Cain emerged from the tree line, his amber eyes glowing in the darkness, as he took in her disheveled appearance and the bag on her shoulder. Going somewhere? He asked quietly, his voice holding an edge of suspicion. Maya lifted her chin defiantly. I've been banished from the pack. Apparently, I'm a thief and a liar who can't be trusted. Cain's expression darkened. What happened? Sophia happened, Maya replied bitterly. While I was trying to gather proof of her betrayal, someone planted stolen pack treasures in my room. My mother found them and cast me out. No one will listen to anything I say now. She expected him to dismiss her story, to assume she was lying to cover her own crimes. Instead, Cain studied her face with those penetrating amber eyes, as if he could read the truth written in her features. You're telling the truth. he said finally, and Maya felt a rush of relief that someone, anyone, believed her. "The ceremony is tomorrow night," she said urgently. "Whatever Sophia and Marcus are planning, they'll strike then. You need to call it off, or at least increase security." "I can't," Kane interrupted. "Canceling the ceremony without concrete proof would be seen as an insult to your pack. It could start a war." Maya's shoulders sagged with defeat. "Then you're going to die." Kane was quiet for a long moment, then surprised her by stepping closer. "Show me this cabin. If what you're saying is true, we need to discuss our options." Maya led him to the small structure, her heart racing from his proximity. Inside, the cabin was sparse but clean. A single room with a fireplace, a bed, and basic furnishings. Kane moved around the space with predatory grace, checking the windows and testing the door. "You'll be safe here," he said finally. "It's on neutral ground, technically outside pack territory." "What about you?" Maya asked, settling onto the edge of the bed. "How are we going to save your life?" Kane turned to face her, and Maya caught her breath at the intensity in his amber gaze. "We? I'm not going anywhere," Maya said firmly. "This is my fight too. Sophia destroyed my life to protect her secrets. I'm not letting her destroy yours as well." Something shifted in Kane's expression. Surprise, perhaps, or admiration. He moved closer, close enough that Maya could feel the heat radiating from his powerful frame. "You realize what you're risking?" he asked softly. "If we're caught together, if anyone discovers you're helping me investigate your own sister, then we'd better not get caught." Maya replied, meeting his gaze without flinching. Kane reached out slowly, his fingers ghosting along her jawline with surprising gentleness. Maya's breath hitched at the contact, electricity sparking between them just as it had in the forest. "You're not what I expected," he murmured, his thumb tracing across her cheekbone. "What did you expect?" Maya whispered. "Someone broken," Kane admitted. "Someone weak. But you're neither of those things, are you, Maya Sterling?" Before she could respond, he stepped back, his alpha mask sliding into place. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we figure out how to expose your sister's conspiracy without getting ourselves killed." As Kane disappeared back into the darkness, Maya touched her cheek where his fingers had lingered. For the first time since her world had crumbled, she felt a spark of hope. She wasn't alone in this fight anymore. Tomorrow she would help save the life of an alpha who saw strength in her when no one else ever had. And maybe, just maybe, she would finally discover who she truly was, beneath years of suppression and lies. The silver wolf in her dreams stirred restlessly, ready to break free. Chapter 4. Dangerous Desires. The morning sun filtered through the cabin's small windows as Maya woke to the sound of approaching footsteps. Her enhanced senses immediately identified the visitor, Alpha Kane's distinctive scent of pine and leather mixed with something darker, more urgent. She quickly smoothed her blonde hair and straightened her simple dress before opening the door. Kane stood on the threshold, his amber eyes intense and focused. In the daylight, he looked even more imposing, broad shoulders straining against a black shirt, dark hair tousled as if he'd been running his hands through it. There was a tension about him that made Maya's newly awakened wolf instincts prickle with awareness. "We have a problem," he said without preamble, stepping into the small space. The cabin suddenly felt impossibly smaller with his powerful presence filling it. Beta Noah has been asking questions. Maya's heart skipped a beat. What kind of questions? About inconsistencies in Sophia's behavior over the past few months. Deaths in both our packs that seemed convenient. "He's noticed things, Maya. Things that support what you've been telling me." Relief flooded through her, followed quickly by fear. "That's good news, isn't it?" Kane's expression remained grim. It would be if he weren't planning to confront Sophia directly. He thinks he can get her to confess if he approaches her the right way. He doesn't understand how dangerous she truly is. Maya sank into the cabin's single chair, her mind racing. If Noah confronts her before we have solid proof, she'll know we're onto her. She'll accelerate whatever timeline she and Marcus have planned. Exactly. Kane began pacing the small room like a caged predator. The ceremony is tonight. If Sophia realizes her plans have been compromised, she might strike early or change tactics entirely. Maya watched him move, her blue eyes tracking the fluid grace of his movements. Even agitated, he moved with the controlled power of an apex predator. The forced proximity of the cabin made her hyper-aware of every detail about him. The way his shirt stretched across his muscled back, the subtle scent of his skin, the barely contained energy that radiated from his frame. "There's something else," Kane continued, finally stopping his pacing to face her. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about the elderly pack members who died recently. I did some investigating of my own." Maya leaned forward, her attention sharpening. "What did you find?" 3 wolves from my pack died in the past 2 months. All of them were in positions where they might have noticed irregularities in territorial records or questioned arranged mating protocols. Kane's amber eyes burned with controlled fury. They were all found with trace amounts of a rare plant toxin in their systems, the same toxin that grows near your pack's eastern border. The revelation hit Maya like a physical blow. She's been killing people to cover her tracks. "It gets worse," Kane said quietly. "One of them was my father's former beta. He'd been asking questions about the legitimacy of arranged matings, whether they could be contested if evidence of deception emerged." Maya felt sick. The scope of Sophia's conspiracy was far worse than she'd imagined. Her twin sister wasn't just planning to betray one alpha. She was systematically eliminating anyone who might threaten her rise to power. "We have to stop her," Maya whispered. Kane moved closer, his presence overwhelming in the small space. "And we will. But we need more than suspicions and circumstantial evidence. We need proof that will convince both packs that their future Luna is a murderer." Maya stood abruptly, bringing them face to face in the center of the cabin. The air between them crackled with electricity, and she could see her own awareness reflected in his amber gaze. The attraction that had sparked between them in the forest was growing stronger, harder to ignore. "I know where Sophia keeps her private correspondence," Maya said, her voice slightly breathless from his proximity. "There's a hidden compartment in her dressing table. If she's been communicating with Marcus about the murders or the attack plans..." "It's too dangerous," Kane said immediately. "If she catches you in her room..." "She won't," Maya interrupted, lifting her chin with determination. "Everyone will be busy with final ceremony preparations. The pack house will be chaos. I can slip in and out without being noticed." Kane's hand shot out to grasp her wrist, and the moment his skin touched hers, that electric shock raced between them again. Both of them froze, staring at the point of contact as energy seemed to dance beneath their skin. "What is this?" Maya whispered, her blue eyes wide with confusion and something that looked dangerously like hunger. Kane's grip tightened slightly, his thumb brushing across her pulse point. "I don't know," he admitted roughly. "But every time I touch you..." He didn't finish the sentence, but Maya felt the truth of it in her bones. Every interaction between them carried this strange energy, this pull that seemed to draw them together despite all logic and reason. She was supposed to be investigating her sister's betrayal, focusing on saving his life, but all she could think about was the way his touch made her skin burn. "Kane," she breathed, and something in her voice made his amber eyes flare with heat. He released her wrist and stepped back, running a hand through his dark hair. "This is insane. You're..." He gestured helplessly. "I'm what?" Maya challenged, surprising herself with her boldness. "You're supposed to be my mate's sister," Kane said finally. "Even if Sophia is everything you say she is, even if the ceremony tonight is a trap, getting involved with you would complicate everything." Maya felt a stab of hurt at his words, but also a surge of defiance. "I'm not asking you to get involved with me, Alpha Torres. I'm asking you to let me help save your life." Kane studied her face for a long moment, and Maya could practically see him wrestling with internal conflicts. Finally, he nodded curtly. "Fine, but we do this my way. You get in, find the evidence, and get out. No heroics, no unnecessary risks." "Agreed," Maya said, though they both knew she was making a promise she might not be able to keep. They spent the next hour planning her infiltration of the pack house. Kane's tactical mind impressed Maya. He thought of contingencies she would never have considered, escape routes and backup plans that could mean the difference between success and disaster. As they worked, the tension between them only grew stronger. Every accidental touch, every shared look, seemed to feed the fire that was building between them. Maya found herself stealing glances at his hands as he sketched rough maps of the pack house layout, remembering how those fingers had felt against her skin. "The ceremony begins at moonrise," Kane said, checking the position of the sun through the window. "That gives us maybe 6 hours to find proof and figure out how to expose Sophia without getting ourselves killed." Maya nodded, but her attention was caught by a new scent drifting through the cabin's walls. Something wild and dangerous that made her enhanced senses go on high alert. "Do you smell that?" she asked, moving toward the window. Kane was beside her instantly, his body tense and ready for action. "Rogues," he said grimly. "At least 3 of them, moving through the forest about half a mile out." Maya's blood ran cold. "Marcus? Probably scouting for tonight's attack," Kane confirmed. "Or looking for you. If Sophia told him you've been asking questions." A howl echoed through the forest, closer than the others. Maya felt something wild and powerful stir within her chest, her wolf responding to the threat with an aggression she'd never experienced before. "We need to get you somewhere safe," Kane said, already moving toward the door. "No," Maya said firmly, surprising them both. "I'm tired of running, tired of hiding. If Marcus wants a fight, maybe it's time to give him one." Kane spun to face her, his amber eyes wide with shock. "Maya, you can't shift. You don't have the training to face rogues in combat." But even as he spoke, Maya could feel something changing inside her. The last traces of wolfsbane were finally clearing her system, and with their departure came a surge of power that made her skin tingle and her vision sharpen. For the first time in her life, she could feel her wolf stirring not just in dreams, but in waking reality. "Maybe I can't," she said, her voice carrying a new strength. "Or maybe I've never been given the chance to try." Another howl. Closer still. Kane moved to the cabin's weapons cache, pulling out a silver-edged knife and pressing it into Maya's hands. "Stay behind me," he commanded, his alpha authority rolling over her in waves. "No matter what happens, do not try to fight them yourself." But as the first rogue broke through the tree line, a massive gray wolf with Marcus's distinctive scarred face, Maya felt her wolf surge forward with a power that shocked them both. The submissive, broken girl who had lived her entire life in the shadows was gone, replaced by something fierce and protective and utterly unafraid. The battle for their lives was about to begin, and Maya Sterling was finally ready to discover exactly what she was capable of when she stopped holding herself back. The silver wolf in her dreams threw back its head and howled, ready at last to break free from its prison of lies and suppression. Tonight would change everything. Chapter 5. Shattered Revelations. The sound of splintering wood echoed through the forest as Marcus's massive gray form crashed through the cabin's front door, his scarred muzzle twisted in a snarl of pure hatred. Maya pressed herself against the back wall, the silver knife trembling in her grip as Kane shifted into his imposing black wolf form, positioning himself between her and the intruder. 2 more rogues flanked Marcus, a russet female with yellowed fangs, and a smaller brown male whose eyes gleamed with bloodthirsty anticipation. They moved with the coordinated precision of a pack that had hunted together before, spreading out to surround their prey. Maya's enhanced senses screamed warnings as she caught their scent. Violence, madness, and beneath it all, the distinctive rose oil that belonged to her twin sister. Sophia had sent them here. The realization hit her like a physical blow, confirming her worst fears about how far her sister was willing to go to protect her conspiracy. Kane's growl reverberated through the small space, a sound of pure alpha dominance that should have sent the rogues fleeing. Instead, Marcus threw back his head and laughed, a chilling sound that emerged from his wolf throat like broken glass. The first attack came without warning. The russet female lunged at Maya while Marcus engaged Kane, clearly intending to eliminate the witness while their leader handled the alpha. Maya dove to the side, the silver blade singing through the air as she slashed wildly at her attacker. To her shock, the knife found its mark, drawing a line of silver-poisoned blood across the rogue's shoulder. The female howled in pain and rage, stumbling backward as the blessed metal burned through her system. But Maya's moment of triumph was short-lived. The brown male circled behind her, his jaws snapping at her legs as she scrambled across the cabin floor. Her blonde hair whipped around her face as she spun to face the new threat, her blue eyes blazing with a fury she'd never experienced before. Something was happening inside her. The wolfsbane suppression that had controlled her entire life was finally breaking down completely, and with its departure came a surge of power that made her skin burn and her vision sharpen to supernatural clarity. She could hear Cain and Marcus locked in vicious combat behind her, could smell the copper tang of blood mixing with the pine-scented air. The Black Alpha was holding his own, but barely. Marcus fought with the desperate savagery of a wolf with nothing left to lose. The brown rogue feinted left, then struck right, his teeth grazing Maya's thigh as she tried to dodge. Pain flared through her leg, but instead of weakening her, it seemed to ignite something primal and fierce in her chest. A growl emerged from her throat, not human, but not quite wolf either. "What are you?" the russet female gasped, her form shimmering as she prepared to shift back to human. "You smell wrong. Different." Maya didn't answer. Couldn't answer, because words seemed inadequate for the transformation beginning to take place inside her body. Her bones ached, her muscles burned, and beneath her skin something silver and powerful was fighting to break free. The cabin door exploded inward again, and Maya's heart sank as she saw Beta Noah stumble inside, his face pale with shock and fear. In his hands, he clutched a leather satchel that made Maya's enhanced senses tingle with recognition. "Alpha!" Noah called out, dodging the writhing mass of Cain and Marcus as they tore at each other with deadly intent. "I found them. The letters, the poison recipes, everything." Maya's breath caught. The evidence they'd been desperately seeking. Noah had found it, but his timing couldn't have been worse. The Beta was walking straight into a death trap, and Maya was the only one in position to protect him. The brown rogue abandoned his attack on Maya, sensing easier prey in the wounded Beta. Maya watched in horror as the wolf launched himself at Noah, jaws wide and ready to tear out the man's throat. Time seemed to slow. Maya could see every detail with supernatural clarity. The way Noah's eyes widened with terror, the gleam of saliva on the rogue's fangs, the precious evidence about to be destroyed along with its bearer. In that crystalline moment, something inside her finally snapped. The silver wolf that had haunted her dreams for years exploded into reality. Maya's shift was unlike anything she'd ever witnessed. Where other transformations were smooth and practiced, hers was raw power barely contained by flesh and bone. Silver light erupted from her skin as her human form dissolved, reforming into something magnificent and terrible. She was larger than a normal wolf, her coat the color of moonlight on fresh snow, her eyes blazing electric blue. Ancient power thrummed through her muscles as she intercepted the rogue's attack, her jaws clamping down on his throat with crushing force. The brown wolf's death was swift and final. Maya released his lifeless form and spun to face the russet female, who was backing toward the shattered door with terror written across her lupine features. "Moon blessed," the rogue whispered, her voice carrying a mixture of awe and fear. "The moon goddess is chosen. It's impossible." Maya's enhanced senses picked up movement behind her. Marcus had broken free from his battle with Cain and was preparing to strike at her exposed back. Without thinking, she spun and caught the gray wolf mid-leap, her superior size and supernatural strength allowing her to slam him against the cabin wall with bone-crushing force. Marcus hit the ground hard, his form flickering between wolf and human as consciousness wavered. Blood seeped from multiple wounds inflicted by Cain's claws and teeth, but his eyes remained fixed on Maya with hatred and disbelief. "Sophia said you were nothing," he gasped, his partially shifted form grotesque and unstable. "Just a broken little girl who couldn't even shift properly." "Sophia lied," Maya replied, her voice emerging as a low growl that seemed to shake the cabin's remaining walls. "About everything." The russet female had used the distraction to flee, her howls of terror echoing through the forest as she disappeared into the underbrush. Maya let her go. There were more important concerns than a single frightened rogue. Noah was struggling to his feet, the leather satchel still clutched protectively against his chest. His eyes were wide with shock as he stared at Maya's transformed state, clearly struggling to process what he'd witnessed. "The evidence," he managed, his voice shaking. "It's all here. Letters between Sophia and Marcus, detailed plans for tonight's attack, even records of the poison purchases used to kill the elderly pack members." Maya felt a surge of fierce satisfaction. Finally, they had proof of her sister's crimes. But even as relief flooded through her, she caught a new scent on the wind, one that made her blood run cold. Sophia was coming. Maya's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of approaching vehicles, the excited chatter of pack members who believed they were rushing to rescue their future Luna's sister from rogue attackers. They had no idea they were being led straight into another trap. "We need to leave," Kane said urgently, his human form bloodied but intact as he finished his own shift back. "Now, before—" His words were cut off by the sound of Sophia's voice calling through the forest, pitched perfectly to carry the right mixture of fear and desperate hope. Maya, where are you? We're here to help." Through the shattered windows, Maya could see torches bobbing between the trees as a search party approached the cabin. At their head walked Sophia, her blonde hair gleaming in the fading daylight, her blue eyes wide with perfectly performed concern. But Maya's supernatural senses caught what the others couldn't. The scent of satisfaction and anticipation rolling off her twin sister. Sophia wasn't here to rescue anyone. She was here to eliminate the last witnesses to her conspiracy and claim the evidence that could destroy her. "The letters," Maya said urgently, her form shimmering as she fought to maintain her wolf shape. "Noah, you have to get them to the Pack Council. Tonight, before the ceremony." "What about you?" Noah asked, his loyalty to his alpha clear even in his confusion. Maya looked at Kane, seeing her own determination reflected in his amber eyes. "We're going to end this, once and for all." But even as she spoke, Maya could feel her enhanced abilities beginning to waver. The massive surge of power that had enabled her transformation was already fading, leaving her exhausted and vulnerable. The wolfsbane might be out of her system, but years of suppression couldn't be overcome in a single moment of crisis. Sophia's voice was getting closer, and with it came the sound of multiple pack members crashing through the underbrush. Soon the cabin would be surrounded, and any chance of escape would be gone. Marcus stirred on the cabin floor, his eyes focusing on the approaching sounds with renewed hope. "Too late," he whispered, blood speckling his lips. "She's here. And when Sophia tells them you attacked innocent pack members trying to rescue you..." The implication hung in the air like poison. Maya realized with growing horror that once again, her sister had orchestrated the perfect trap. To the arriving pack members, it would look like Maya and Kane had murdered rogues who were trying to protect them. The evidence Noah carried would be dismissed as fabrications, and Sophia would emerge as the grieving sister who had tried desperately to save her wayward twin. "Go," Maya told Kane and Noah, her voice tight with desperation. "Take the evidence and run. I'll buy you time." "I'm not leaving you," Kane said fiercely, his alpha nature rebelling against abandoning someone under his protection. "You have to," Maya replied, her blue eyes meeting his with painful intensity. "Your pack needs you alive. The ceremony is in 3 hours. If you're not there to stop it..." She didn't need to finish. They all understood the stakes. If Kane died tonight, 2 entire packs would fall under the control of a murderess who had already proven she would kill anyone who stood in her way. The torches were almost at the clearing now. Maya could hear her mother's voice among the searchers, could smell the familiar scents of pack members she'd known her entire life. In moments, they would surround the cabin, and her last chance to save the man she was rapidly falling in love with would be gone forever. Maya shifted back to human form, the silver light fading from her skin, as exhaustion crashed over her like a wave, but her eyes remained blazing with determination as she looked at Kane one final time. "Remember me," she whispered, and then threw herself toward the approaching lights, ready to face her sister's final betrayal alone. Chapter 6. Silver Moon Rising. The mating ceremony had transformed the Sterling Pack grounds into a vision of ethereal beauty. Hundreds of white roses adorned every surface, their petals glowing like pearls under the light of torches that lined the ceremonial circle. The full moon hung heavy and bright overhead, casting silver shadows across the assembled crowd of both packs who had gathered to witness the union that would bind their territories forever. Maya crouched in the shadows at the forest's edge, her blonde hair dark with dirt, and her blue eyes burning with desperate determination. Hours had passed since the confrontation at the cabin, hours during which Sophia had spun her web of lies with masterful precision. The official story was that Maya had been found in a state of complete mental breakdown, surrounded by the bodies of rogues she claimed were trying to kill Alpha Cain Torres. The evidence Noah had discovered had been dismissed as elaborate forgeries created by Maya's unstable mind. Beta Noah himself had been confined to quarters under suspicion of collaborating with the disturbed individual, his protests falling on deaf ears. And Cain. Maya's heart clenched as she spotted him at the ceremonial altar, his face a mask of controlled resignation as he prepared to mate with the woman planning his murder. Maya had managed to escape the search party through sheer desperation and her newly awakened enhanced senses. But she could feel her strength waning with each passing hour. The massive power surge that had enabled her transformation was gone, leaving her feeling hollow and drained. Yet she couldn't abandon Cain to his fate, couldn't let Sophia's conspiracy succeed. The ceremony was reaching its crescendo. Elder Morrison's voice carried across the gathering as he spoke the ancient words that would bind Alpha and Luna together under the moon's blessing. Sophia stood radiant in her white ceremonial gown, her blonde hair crowned with silver circlets, her blue eyes sparkling with what the crowd believed was joy, but Maya recognized as anticipation. "Under the light of our sacred moon," Elder Morrison intoned, "we gather to witness the joining of two souls, the union of two packs, the birth of a legacy that will endure for generations." Maya's enhanced hearing picked up sounds the others couldn't detect, the subtle movement of figures positioned around the ceremonial circle's perimeter. Marcus's surviving rogues, she realized with growing horror. They were already in position, waiting for Sophia's signal to begin the slaughter. She had to act now, before the ceremony reached the point of no return. Maya burst from the tree line, her voice cutting through the night air like a blade. "Stop! Don't let her complete the mating! She's going to kill you all!" Gasps rippled through the crowd as heads turned toward the disheveled figure racing toward the ceremonial circle. Pack warriors moved to intercept her, but Maya's desperate speed carried her past their reaching hands. "Maya!" Luna Victoria's voice cracked like a whip. "Guards, restrain her immediately. She's clearly suffering another episode." But Maya's attention was fixed solely on Cain, whose amber eyes had found hers across the distance. In that moment of connection, she saw recognition flare in his gaze, not of madness, but of truth. He believed her. Even after everything, he trusted her word over the evidence of his own senses. "The moon transition," Maya gasped as pack warriors closed in around her. "Cain, look at the moon! It's reaching the apex!" Above them, the full moon seemed to pulse with otherworldly energy, its silver light growing brighter and more intense by the moment. Maya could feel something responding to that celestial power, something that had been dormant in her blood for 22 years finally beginning to stir. "Enough!" Sophia's voice rang out, her perfect composure finally cracking. "She's completely lost her mind. Guards, remove her from the sacred circle before she disrupts the ceremony further." But as the warriors reached for Maya, the impossible happened. Silver light began to emanate from her skin, starting as a faint glow and rapidly intensifying until she blazed like a fallen star. The guards stumbled backward, shielding their eyes from the supernatural radiance. "Moon blessed," Elder Morrison whispered, his ancient voice filled with awe and terror. "The prophecies spoke of this day. But I never believed." Maya felt the transformation beginning again. But this time it was different. Where her shift at the cabin had been driven by desperation and rage, this change flowed through her like liquid starlight. Her bones elongated without pain, her muscles expanded with graceful power, and when her human form finally dissolved, what emerged was breathtaking. The silver wolf that stood in the ceremonial circle was magnificent beyond description. Her coat gleamed like polished metal, each hair catching and reflecting the moon's light, until she seemed to be carved from pure luminescence. Her eyes blazed electric blue, ancient and knowing, carrying the weight of prophecies long forgotten. But the most remarkable thing was her size. She dwarfed even Cain's impressive alpha form, standing nearly as tall as a human at the shoulder. This wasn't just a wolf. This was something primordial, a creature of legend, given flesh and breath under the full moon's blessing. The assembled crowd fell to their knees in spontaneous reverence, recognizing the presence of something divine. Even the hidden rogues hesitated, their violent intentions wavering in the face of such overwhelming spiritual power. Only Sophia remained standing, her face twisted with hatred and disbelief. "No!" she snarled, her perfect mask finally crumbling completely. "This is impossible. I made sure she was nothing, weak and broken and worthless." Maya's lupine gaze fixed on her twin sister, and when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of mountains and the fury of storms. "You were wrong, sister, about everything. The attack came without warning, not from the rogues, but from Marcus himself, who had been hiding among the ceremony attendees in human form." His massive frame lunged toward Cain with a silver blade aimed at the Alpha's heart, clearly hoping to complete his mission while everyone's attention was focused on Maya's transformation. Maya moved with supernatural speed, her enhanced form intercepting the assassin's strike. But Marcus had anticipated this, his blade shifting at the last moment to slash across her throat instead of Cain's chest. Silver fire erupted along the wound as blessed metal bit deep into divine flesh. Maya staggered, silver blood spattering the ceremonial stones as she fought to remain standing. The injury should have been fatal, would have been fatal to any normal wolf. But the moon's blessing sustained her even as her life force ebbed away. "Maya!" Cain's roar of anguish echoed through the night as he shifted into his black wolf form, throwing himself at Marcus with murderous intent. But the damage was already done. Maya's supernatural strength was fading fast, the silver wound burning through her system like acid. As she collapsed onto the ceremonial stones, Maya felt something click into place in her mind. A connection that had been building since the first moment she'd touched Cain's hand. The electric energy, the inexplicable attraction, the way her wolf had responded to his presence. It all made sense now. "Mate," she whispered, the word barely audible but carrying enough power to stop every heart in the ceremonial circle. "True mates." Cain's wolf form shimmered as he fought to shift back to human, his amber eyes wide with shock and recognition. Maya could feel it too now. The golden thread that connected their souls, the bond that Sophia's wolfsbane had been suppressing for years. It blazed between them like a bridge of starlight, and through it flowed a love so pure and powerful it made the very air sing. The mate bond's revelation sent shockwaves through both packs. Arranged matings could be dissolved if true mates were discovered, but only if both parties acknowledged the connection. Maya had just publicly claimed Cain Torres as her destined partner, invalidating his engagement to Sophia in the most dramatic way possible. "Lies!" Sophia shrieked, her composure completely shattered. "All lies. She's dying anyway, so what does it matter what delusions she spouts?" But Elder Morrison had seen enough. His ancient eyes took in Maya's divine transformation, the mate bond blazing between her and Cain, and the truth that had been hidden for so long. "The moon has spoken," he declared, his voice carrying across the silent crowd. "The true Luna stands revealed." Sophia's face contorted with rage and desperation. She pulled a silver dagger from the folds of her ceremonial gown, lunging toward Maya's weakened form with murder in her eyes. If she couldn't have the power she'd schemed for, she would at least have her revenge. Maya saw the attack coming, but was too weakened to defend herself. The silver wound in her throat was spreading its poison through her system, and her magnificent wolf form was already beginning to fade. She had saved Cain's life and revealed the truth about Sophia's conspiracy, but it looked like the victory would cost her everything. Then Cain was there, his human form intercepting Sophia's desperate strike. The silver blade meant for Maya's heart buried itself in his shoulder instead, and he cried out in pain as the blessed metal burned through his flesh. The mate bond flared with shared agony, and Maya felt Cain's pain as clearly as her own. But she also felt his love, his determination, his absolute refusal to let her die alone. That connection, that perfect unity of souls, gave her strength she didn't know she possessed. With her last reserves of moon-blessed power, Maya shifted back to human form and pressed her hand to Cain's wound. Silver light flowed from her fingertips, not the overwhelming radiance of her transformation, but something gentler, healing energy that sealed his injury and drew the poison from his blood. "Maya," Cain whispered, gathering her into his arms as her strength finally gave out. "Stay with me. Please, just stay with me." Around them, the ceremonial circle erupted into chaos as pack warriors finally moved to apprehend the rogues who had been exposed during the conflict. Sophia was screaming threats and curses as she was dragged away, her perfect mask finally shattered beyond repair. But Maya heard none of it. Her blue eyes were fixed on Kane's face, memorizing every detail as darkness crept in around the edges of her vision. The moon's blessing was fading, taking with it the supernatural power that had sustained her through the transformation and its aftermath. "I love you," she whispered, the words barely a breath against his lips. "I'm sorry I couldn't be stronger for you." "You are the strongest person I've ever known," Kane replied fiercely, his amber eyes blazing with tears he refused to shed. "And I love you too. More than life itself." Maya smiled at his words, feeling peace settle over her like a warm blanket. She had exposed Sophia's conspiracy, saved Kane's life, and experienced the kind of love she'd only dreamed about. If this was how her story ended, she could accept that. But the moon goddess, it seemed, had other plans. As Maya's consciousness faded, the full moon above them pulsed one final time, sending a wave of pure silver energy cascading over the ceremonial circle. The healing light sank into Maya's skin, repairing the damage from Marcus's blade and restoring the strength that had been burned away by her transformation. Maya's eyes fluttered open to find Kane's face inches from her own, his expression a mixture of hope and desperate love. "Welcome back," he whispered, and then his lips were on hers, sealing their mate bond with a kiss that sent silver fire racing through their connected souls. The nightmare was finally over. Truth had triumphed over deception. Love had conquered hate. And Maya Sterling had claimed her birthright as the moon goddess's chosen daughter. But their story was just beginning. Chapter 7. Sacred Bonds. The ceremonial circle fell silent except for the crackling of torches and the distant sound of warriors subduing the remaining rogues. Maya felt strength flowing back into her limbs as the moon goddess's healing light continued to course through her body, mending not just the physical wounds but years of suppressed potential. She remained cradled in Kane's arms, their mate bond humming with shared relief and wonder. Elder Morrison approached them slowly, his ancient face marked with awe and reverence. "Never in my 70 years have I witnessed such a divine intervention," he said softly. "The moon goddess herself has chosen to preserve your bond." Around the circle, pack members from both territories knelt in recognition of what they had witnessed. The evidence of Maya's moon-blessed nature was undeniable. The silver transformation, the supernatural healing, the way the very air seemed to shimmer with residual divine energy where she had stood. "The ceremony," Kane said urgently, helping Maya to her feet as she regained her strength. "What happens now? The alliance between our packs." "We'll be stronger than ever," Elder Morrison replied with a knowing smile. "A true mate, bond blessed by the moon goddess herself, carries more weight than any arranged marriage. Your union will be legendary, Alpha Torres." Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks at the implication, but before she could respond, a commotion at the circle's edge drew their attention. Pack warriors were dragging Sophia forward, her once perfect ceremonial gown torn and stained, her blonde hair disheveled from her struggles, but her blue eyes still blazed with unrepentant fury. "This changes nothing!" Sophia snarled, her voice carrying across the silent crowd. "She's still the same weak, pathetic creature she's always been. One lucky transformation doesn't erase a lifetime of inadequacy." Luna Victoria stepped forward, her face pale with shock and growing horror as the full scope of her daughter's deception became clear. "Sophia, please tell me you weren't truly planning to murder Alpha Torres." "Why shouldn't I?" Sophia spat, abandoning all pretense. "He was never worthy of our bloodline anyway. Weak, sentimental, caring more about his precious honor than real power. Under my rule, both packs would have become something greater." The admission drew gasps from the assembled crowd. Even those who had harbored doubts about Maya's accusations could no longer deny the truth when faced with Sophia's own words. Beta Noah emerged from the group of warriors, the leather satchel containing Sophia's correspondence still clutched in his hands. "Alpha Torres, the evidence is overwhelming. Letters detailing planned attacks, poison recipes, even financial records showing payments to Marcus and his rogues. She's been orchestrating this conspiracy for months. Maya stepped forward, her newly awakened confidence allowing her to face her twin sister without flinching. It wasn't just about the mating ceremony, was it, Sophia? You've been systematically eliminating anyone who might question your rise to power. The elderly pack members, the wolves who understood pack law well enough to spot inconsistencies in your plans, they were obstacles, Sophia replied coldly. Just like you should have been. I gave you wolfsbane for years to keep you weak and compliant. I convinced Mother that you were mentally unstable, emotionally damaged, a disappointment to our family name. It should have been enough to neutralize you permanently. Luna Victoria's face crumpled with the weight of realization. The wolfsbane? Sophia, you've been poisoning your own sister since you were children? Someone had to ensure the right daughter inherited our bloodline's power, Sophia said without remorse. Maya was always too weak, too soft. She would have destroyed everything our family built. The casual cruelty in her voice made Maya's wolf stir with protective anger, but she forced herself to remain calm. You were wrong about everything, sister. I'm not weak. I never was. You just made sure I never had the chance to discover my true strength. Kane moved to Maya's side, his presence warm and solid against her shoulder. The mate bond explains so much, he said quietly. Why the arranged mating felt wrong from the beginning. Why I felt drawn to protect you even when logic said I shouldn't trust you. Our souls recognized each other despite the wolfsbane suppression. Elder Morrison nodded sagely. True mate bonds cannot be permanently severed by artificial means. The moon goddess's will finds a way to manifest, no matter what obstacles are placed in its path. A new voice cut through the ceremonial circle as Alpha Victoria Sterling stepped forward, her Luna authority radiating outward in waves. Maya had never seen her mother look so devastated, so utterly broken by the revelation of Sophia's true nature. As Luna of the Sterling Pack, Victoria announced, her voice carrying despite its tremor, I hereby strip Sophia Sterling of her rank, her inheritance, and her place in this family. She is banished from our territory for the crimes of attempted murder, conspiracy, and the systematic poisoning of pack members. Sophia's face contorted with rage. You can't do this to me. I'm your daughter. I'm the strong one, the worthy one. You are no daughter of mine, Victoria replied with finality. A true daughter protects her family, honors her bloodline, seeks to build rather than destroy. You have become something monstrous, and I take responsibility for not seeing it sooner. Maya felt an unexpected pang of sympathy for her mother, recognizing the pain of betrayal and self-recrimination in Victoria's eyes. Mother, she said softly. Sophia's manipulation was masterful. She spent years building the perfect facade, telling you exactly what you wanted to hear about both of us. Her deception wasn't your fault. Victoria's blue eyes, so like Maya's own, filled with tears. But favoring her over you was my choice. Believing her lies about your supposed instability, treating you like a servant in your own home. Maya, can you ever forgive me? The question hung in the air between them, weighted with 22 years of pain and rejection. Maya felt Kane's hand slip into hers, his strength flowing through their bond and giving her the courage to choose forgiveness over resentment. We can rebuild, Maya said simply. All of us. Together. The simple words seemed to break something inside Victoria, and she moved forward to embrace her younger daughter for the first time in years. Maya stiffened initially, then gradually relaxed into the unfamiliar comfort of maternal affection. My Luna, Elder Morrison said gently. The ceremony must be completed. The mate bond has been acknowledged, but the formal claiming ritual will seal the alliance between our packs and ensure the moon goddess's continued blessing. Maya felt her cheeks burn with sudden shyness. The claiming ritual was intensely personal, traditionally performed in private between mates. But given the circumstances, she understood why a public ceremony was necessary. Kane squeezed her hand reassuringly. Only if you're ready, he murmured for her ears alone. We can wait. Take time to... No, Maya interrupted, surprised by her own certainty. I've waited my whole life to belong somewhere. To someone. I don't want to wait any longer. Kane's amber eyes flared with heat and tender devotion. Then claim me, he said softly. As I claim you, before the moon goddess and both our packs, let our bond be witnessed and blessed." Elder Morrison began the ancient words as pack members reformed the ceremonial circle, creating sacred space for the claiming ritual. Maya and Cain stood at the center, their hands joined, silver moonlight bathing them in ethereal radiance. "Under the eternal light of our sacred moon," Elder Morrison intoned, "we witness the claiming of true mates, blessed by the goddess herself. Alpha Cain Torres of the Red Moon Pack, do you claim Maya Sterling as your Luna, your mate, your equal in all things?" "I do," Cain replied, his voice carrying absolute conviction. "I claim her strength, her courage, her pure heart. I claim her as my partner in leadership, my companion in battle, my beloved for all eternity. Maya Sterling, moon-blessed daughter of the goddess, do you claim Alpha Cain Torres as your mate, your alpha, your chosen partner?" Maya's voice rang clear and strong across the silent gathering. "I do. I claim his honor, his protection, his unwavering loyalty. I claim him as my heart's true home, my soul's perfect match, my destined mate for all time." The formal words completed, Cain drew Maya closer, his hands framing her face with infinite tenderness. "I love you," he whispered. "More than territory, more than power, more than life itself." "And I love you," Maya replied, her blue eyes shining with tears of joy. "My alpha, my mate, my everything." When their lips met, the mate bond exploded with silver fire that was visible to every witness. The energy raced between them, through them, binding their souls together with bonds that could never be broken. Maya felt Cain's strength become hers, his love flowing through every fiber of her being, while her own healing power merged with his alpha authority to create something unprecedented. The kiss deepened, and Maya felt her wolf spirit soar with perfect happiness. She was no longer the broken, rejected daughter hiding in shadows. She was Luna, moon-blessed and deeply loved, standing beside her true mate as an equal partner in leadership. When they finally broke apart, the assembled packs erupted in celebration. Howls of joy echoed through the forest, as wolves in both human and shifted forms acknowledged their new Luna. Even the moon goddess seemed to approve, her silver light growing brighter overhead in benediction. "Together," Cain murmured against Maya's ear as the celebration swirled around them. "Together," Maya agreed, her heart full to overflowing with love and hope. The claiming was complete. Their bond was sealed. And their real life together was just beginning. Sophia's screams of rage faded into the distance as she was escorted to the territory borders. But Maya no longer cared about her sister's hatred. She had everything she'd ever dreamed of and more. A mate who loved her completely, a pack that accepted her, and powers that marked her as truly special. The nightmare of suppression and rejection was over. The dream of belonging and love had finally become reality. Chapter 8. Forever Bound. 6 months had passed since the night that changed everything, and the Red Moon Sterling territories had transformed into something unprecedented in pack history. Maya stood on the balcony of their shared Alpha residence, watching the sun paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson as it set over the thriving community below. Her blonde hair caught the evening light as she rested her hands on the gentle swell of her growing belly, a smile playing across her lips as she felt the twins stirring within her. The healing center she had established in the heart of their united territory bustled with activity even at this late hour. Wolves from dozens of neighboring packs had made pilgrimages seeking the legendary Luna's touch, drawn by stories of her moon-blessed abilities to cure ailments that had plagued shifter communities for generations. What had begun as a small clinic had grown into a renowned sanctuary where the sick and wounded found not just physical healing, but hope. "You're thinking too hard again," Cain's voice rumbled behind her as strong arms encircled her waist, his hands coming to rest over hers on their unborn children. "I can practically hear the gears turning in that brilliant mind of yours." Maya leaned back against his chest, reveling in the solid warmth of his presence and the constant hum of their mate bond. "Just amazed by how much has changed," she replied softly. "Sometimes I still can't believe this is real." Cain's lips brushed against her temple, his love flowing through their connection like liquid starlight. Very real, he murmured, and getting more real every day. Their territory had indeed flourished under their joint leadership. The unique partnership between Maya's diplomatic healing gifts and Kane's strategic military mind had created a pack unlike any other. Disputes that had simmered between neighboring territories for decades had been resolved through Maya's patient mediation, while Kane's reputation for honorable strength had attracted wolves seeking a leader they could truly respect. Alpha Torres, Luna Maya, Beta Noah's voice called from the doorway, his tone carrying the warm familiarity that had developed over months of close cooperation. The evening council meeting is ready to begin when you are. Maya turned in Kane's arms, noting the way her mate's amber eyes automatically swept over her form, checking for any signs of fatigue or discomfort. His protectiveness had only intensified since learning about the pregnancy, though he was careful not to restrict her activities unnecessarily. "How are you feeling?" he asked quietly, his hands ghosting over her rounded belly with reverent tenderness. The healers said twin pregnancies can be more exhausting than single births. "I feel wonderful," Maya assured him. And it was the truth. The moon goddess's blessing seemed to have strengthened rather than weakened her during pregnancy, her healing abilities growing more refined and powerful with each passing week. Strong. Complete. They made their way to the council chambers, where representatives from both their original packs as well as several allied territories had gathered for the weekly leadership meetings that kept their expanded community running smoothly. Maya had instituted the practice early in their joint rule, believing that transparency and inclusion led to stronger loyalty and better decisions. "First order of business," Noah announced as they took their seats at the head of the curved table. "The Border Patrol reports. Captain Jensen, all quiet on the eastern and northern borders," the grizzled warrior reported. The southern patrol did encounter a small group of displaced wolves seeking sanctuary, but they were peaceful refugees fleeing conflicts in the mountain territories. Luna Maya's standing order to offer aid was implemented. Maya nodded approvingly. One of her first acts as Luna had been to establish their territory as a safe haven for wolves who found themselves without pack protection. The policy had initially caused concern among more traditional pack members, but the grateful loyalty of those they'd helped had proven its wisdom. "The western border had more interesting developments," Captain Jensen continued. "3 separate packs have sent formal requests to join our alliance. The Elder Oak Pack, the Valley Run Pack, and the Moonstone Pack are all seeking the protection and prosperity they've witnessed in our territories." Kane leaned forward, his strategic mind immediately engaged. "What's driving the sudden interest? 3 requests in 1 week isn't coincidence. Intelligence suggests that rogue activity has increased significantly in the outer territories," Jensen replied. "Without strong leadership or unified defense, smaller packs are becoming easy targets. They've heard about our success in eliminating rogue threats and want similar security." Maya felt a familiar stirring of her protective instincts. The months since Sophia's banishment had been peaceful for their territory, but she knew her sister's corruption had been part of a larger pattern of violence and instability affecting the entire region. "What about Sophia?" Maya asked quietly. "Any reports of her activities?" Noah's expression darkened. "Nothing confirmed, but there have been rumors. Stories of a rogue female with unusual strategic abilities, organizing scattered criminal groups into more effective raiding parties. The descriptions match her," Maya finished, her hand unconsciously moving to her throat, where Marcus's blade had once cut deep. "She won't give up easily. Power was always more important to her than anything else." Kane's hand found hers beneath the table, his strength flowing through their bond to steady her. "Let her try," he said quietly. "She's alone now, cast out and without allies. We have an entire community behind us, and your abilities have only grown stronger." The meeting continued with reports of trade negotiations, territorial improvements, and the upcoming harvest festival that would celebrate their first year as a unified pack. Maya found herself marveling at how naturally she had adapted to leadership, how the confidence that had bloomed during their mate bonding had grown into genuine political skill. "There is one more matter," Elder Morrison announced from his position as council advisor. At 83, the ancient wolf served as keeper of pack laws and traditions, his wisdom invaluable in navigating the complexities of their expanded territory. "The autumn moon approaches, and with it, the traditional time for Luna ceremonies. Maya's breath caught. She had been so focused on daily governance and her pregnancy that she hadn't considered the ceremonial obligations that came with her new status. "What exactly does that involve?" she asked, noting the way several council members exchanged meaningful glances. "A pilgrimage to the sacred grove," Elder Morrison explained. "Every Luna, blessed by the moon goddess, is expected to visit the ancient altar during the autumn full moon, to offer gratitude and receive guidance for the coming year. Given your unique relationship with the goddess, the ceremony could be particularly significant." Kane frowned, his protective instincts immediately activated. Maya's 6 months pregnant with twins. A journey to the sacred grove could be dangerous, especially with rogue activity increasing. "The ceremony cannot be delayed," Elder Morrison said gently but firmly. "To ignore the goddess's call would risk losing her favor, and Luna Maya's blessing affects not just our pack, but all the territories that have come under our protection." Maya felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders, but also a deep certainty that this was something she needed to do. Her connection to the moon goddess had been the foundation of everything good in her new life. Her transformation, her powers, her bond with Kane. If the goddess was calling her to the sacred grove, she would answer. "I'll go," she said simply, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had become her trademark as Luna. "We'll go," Kane corrected, his amber eyes blazing with determination. "If my mate faces the goddess's trials, she doesn't face them alone." The council meeting concluded with detailed planning for the sacred journey, but Maya found her thoughts drifting to the life growing within her. The twins had been remarkably active during the discussions of Luna ceremonies and goddess blessings, as if they somehow understood the significance of what was coming. Later that evening, as she and Kane prepared for bed in their private chambers, Maya caught sight of herself in the full-length mirror. The changes in her appearance over the past months were remarkable. Her blonde hair had grown longer and somehow more lustrous. Her blue eyes held depths of wisdom and power that hadn't been there before, and her entire bearing radiated the confidence of a woman who had found her true place in the world. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked quietly as Kane brushed her hair with long, soothing strokes. "Giving up the alliance marriage? Dealing with all the complications that came with choosing me instead?" Kane's hands stilled, and he met her eyes in the mirror with an expression of such fierce devotion that her breath caught. "Maya Sterling Torres," he said slowly, "you are the best thing that has ever happened to me, to our pack, to this entire region. You turned a political alliance into something legendary. You brought healing where there was only conflict, hope where there was only despair." He set down the brush and turned her to face him, his hands framing her face with infinite tenderness. "I would choose you again in every lifetime, against every obstacle, despite any consequence. You are my heart, my strength, my Luna in every sense of the word." Maya felt tears prick her eyes as she stood on her toes to kiss him, pouring all her love and gratitude into the connection between them. When they broke apart, she pressed her forehead to his, their bond humming with perfect harmony. "I love you," she whispered, "more than I ever thought it was possible to love anyone. And I love you," Kane replied, his voice rough with emotion. "My moon-blessed mate, my impossible Luna, my everything." As they settled into bed together, Maya's hands resting on her belly while Kane's arm encircled both her and their unborn children, she felt a deep sense of completion. The scared, suppressed girl who had spent years believing herself broken and worthless was gone, replaced by a woman who knew her own worth and wielded power with wisdom and compassion. Outside their window, the moon shone down on territories that thrived under their protection, on pack members who slept safely knowing their leaders would sacrifice anything to keep them secure, on a community that had become legendary for its harmony and strength. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new responsibilities, new opportunities to serve their people and honor the goddess who had blessed their union. But tonight, Maya was simply a woman deeply in love, carrying the future of their bloodline, surrounded by more happiness than she had ever dared to dream possible. "Thank you," she whispered to the moon visible through their window, her words carrying all the gratitude in her heart for the goddess who had transformed her rejection into the greatest love story their world had ever known. In response, silver light seemed to intensify around their sleeping forms, a benediction, and a promise that their happiness was only the beginning of a legacy that would endure for generations to come. The broken girl had become a legendary Luna, and her story would inspire hope in the hearts of wolves for centuries after her name had passed into myth. Forever bound by love, blessed by the moon, and destined for greatness beyond imagining. Maya Sterling's transformation from rejected twin to moon-blessed Luna proves that even the most suppressed wolves can rise to claim their destiny. But across the supernatural world, countless other souls are still trapped by betrayal and lies, searching for their true mates, fighting to break free from those who would keep them powerless. Their stories of awakening and forbidden love are waiting to be told. If you're ready to join our pack, share your thoughts below about Maya's journey from servant to Luna. We have an entire collection of passionate werewolf tales waiting for you. Stories of rejected mates discovering their power, unbreakable alpha bonds, and moon-blessed transformations that change everything. Hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss our next shifter romance. Thank you for running with our pack tonight. Until the next full moon rises on our tales.